So this is a bit of the spec that seems to trip up students on quite a regular basis. So I think it's really important that we go through this step by step. So one of the bits of the spec asks about this understanding of how industrial areas can stimulate economic growth in low-income countries. So first off, we need to understand what we mean by the term industrial areas. So when we're talking about industrial areas, what we're really referring to is the establishment of large areas of secondary manufacturing, large factories and warehouses in a low-income country. Now, to understand how this can stimulate economic growth, we need to think about what is the main economy going to be like of a low-income country without these industrial areas or prior to them coming in. So if we think about our low-income countries, in terms of their economy, prior to any industrial areas developing, the likelihood is that they're going to be reliant on what is called a primary economy. So what we mean by primary economy is normally raw materials. It's quite often agricultural based, so farming. Now, whilst this is absolutely fine, generally we associate primary products as being of low value. This means that our low-income countries often end up in a situation that we refer to as a trade deficit. Basically, they sell low-value products. Okay? Maybe if we're taking India as an example of a country that has recently gone under lots of industrialisation, but prior to that would have been selling things such as tea leaves and coffee. And they sell those low-value products, but they have to import or buy in high-value products that are manufactured, electronics, medicines and so on. Okay, that is then going to create a trade deficit because they're basically selling things that are low value and having to buy in high value, more expensive products. That is going to limit your ability to develop as a country. Now, what we're starting to see is that many of our low-income countries are experiencing huge industrial growth. This is mainly being driven by large TNCs, that's transnational corporations, big global companies, setting up factories in LICs or newly emerging economies. And the reason these big companies are doing this is simple. The workforce available in these low-income countries is huge. There's a large workforce that are willing to work for lower wages than the workforce in high-income countries, so therefore it makes sense for these companies to locate here. And what you end up is, as a result, is these low-income countries start to move away from a primary-based industry to what we refer to as a secondary-based industry, a manufacturing industry. Now, this has huge benefits. Okay. Firstly, we can think about the direct benefits. If they are now producing manufactured goods, okay, they're producing secondary products, they now have a much higher value export. So they've got things that are more expensive to sell to other countries. This is going to massively increase their GNI, their gross national income, which is basically the amount of money they have as a country. Think about it, if you're selling something that's very valuable versus something that's low value, you're going to make more money. On top of this, they're going to get huge amounts of investment from foreign countries or companies. Okay. Yes, these companies are going to want to locate there, but they know they're going to have to invest in that country to improve it. They're going to have to invest in things such as improving its infrastructure, improve it in providing training to the staff so that the staff working in the factories know what they're going to do. There's going to be a huge amount of money being poured into these countries. On top of that as well, these secondary jobs, these jobs in manufacturing working for these transnational corporations, firstly, as secondary jobs are higher paying, but also are likely in most cases to be formal sector jobs. Now, why this is important is firstly for the individuals. Formal sector jobs means there's greater job security for people, and higher wages means they're going to improve their own quality of life by being able to afford a better diet, afford medicine, afford clean water and so on. But also, higher paying jobs in the formal sector are going to pay more tax to the government. As a result of that more tax going into the government, they're going to be able to spend that money improving things such as their healthcare and education services. So this is when we get into our indirect benefits. Because our government now has more money, because it's selling more valuable exports and it's getting more tax income, they're going to be able to make improvements to their social services. So things like their education and their healthcare is going to improve. An improvement in healthcare is going to result in an improvement in health conditions of the population, their life expectancy getting better. An improvement in education means that people are going to get more qualifications, which means they're going to be able to move into higher paying jobs in the future. On top of that, when we talk about indirect benefits, these big industrial areas, there's no good in them being able to just produce a product. They've got to be able to move that out of the country. Okay, so normally what we see is improvements in transport infrastructure. So that might be things such as improvements in roads or railway, which allows these products to be moved from the factories where they're made to their ports where they're going to be sold, airports where they're going to be transported around the world, much more efficient. But that's also going to benefit the population. Now, a really good example of an industrial area that stimulated growth is the Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor. Okay? This is a 1,500 kilometre stretch of land in between the two cities of Delhi and Mumbai. And within that are going to be 24 factory areas, each with multiple factories within them. Now, why this is such a good example is that it's not yet completed, but it is predicted that it's going to create over 3 million formal sector jobs for the Indian population. Okay? They're jobs that are going to be higher paid and they're going to be paying that tax, which is going to allow the Indian government to invest in its social services that we mentioned earlier. It's expected as well that it will quadruple, so up by 4 times, the value of India's current exports. So because they're going to be producing much more valuable products, and in the Delhi Mumbai corridor they're going to be making various things from fashion, textiles, clothing, to cars, mopeds, to computers and computer chips. These things are going to be highly valuable, and this means therefore that India's exports, its earnings that it gets from its exports, the things it sells to other countries, is predicted to increase by over 4 times what it currently is. So a really good example of how an industrial area can stimulate economic and social development, because this increase in formal sector jobs and this increase in income from selling these products is going to allow for an improvement of things such as education and health services, improvements in things such as sewage systems and clean water provision. So this movement from a predominantly primary industry to a secondary industry is going to be significant in helping the country develop.